Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic Podcast. And to everybody new, welcome to the show. I have one of my favorite guests with me today. I always say, I started my show in 2019, 6 years ago, but Kerry Cassidy's been in this field since I think at least 2005. You know what I mean? And she's been
Right.
bringing the truth since then. And I started watching her stuff in 2013, maybe. She always had the most insane whistleblower. I'm not amazing whistleblowers on, kind of like that would blow your mind and stuff that other people weren't covering at the time. And just a little bit about my guests. I wrote a blog about it. I wrote tonight on the Typical Skeptic Podcast. We're honored to welcome back one of the most fearless voices in the disclosure arena, Kerry Cassidy, founder and CEO of Project Camelot. For decades, Kerry has traveled the hidden corridors of truth, interviewing whistleblowers with top secret clearances, documenting clandestine technology, alternative experiments with deep shadows of our world. Whether it's extraterrestrials, secret space programs, black ops, or the matrix of power that lies beyond the visible reality, Kerry has been there. In this episode, which is 2307, we'll dive deep into what's happening now, who's really running the show, what's being hidden, and why it matters for you. This is a conversation you don't want to miss. And with all that said, I'd like to give her a big warm welcome back to the show. Kerry, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
Thanks. I'm good. Thank you. This is a little smeary camera. I don't know why it's like that, but I hope you can see me good enough. I'm having all kinds of computer issues with my camera. And so this is the second week. It's in the Apple repair thing. And so it just throws everything off in terms of the look of my stuff and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's all right. It looks fine. It looks completely fine. Yeah.
Okay.
My friend Michelle in the chat said Kerry looks beautiful. So I'll put it up on the thing. So, yeah. But where did you want to start with this? Or let me ask you this: what is going? I saw you published the article about Trump, which was really interesting, and then you published the article about Charlie Kirk, which is interesting, and I love how it ties into the SSP. Could you tell my audience a little bit about what's going on or what you think might be going on? And yeah.
Okay, sure. Well, there's a lot going on, but most of it is sort of hidden, so people don't know what's what. And that kind of drives people crazy, I think, and especially the MAGA people like us, or me. And I can say that this whole thing with Tina Peters is a real big issue. And 107 did something kind of out of character. He went on a show and basically demanded or, begged, I don't know what you want to say, Trump to do something for her to get her out of the situation she's in. And she's in that situation because she was helping the White Hats. So I'm sure that he feels a great responsibility. She seems like a lovely woman. And she was basically just trying to make sure that there wasn't going to be a steal, or there hadn't been a steal of the votes. So she had kept a record, a certain kind of record that's already on the machine thing, and she was checking it, as I understand it. So just saying, we're not talking about an axe murderer. We're not talking about a pedophile that kills and drinks the blood of children like Epstein, who's your typical vampire, in case you don't know. We're talking about a woman who is, I think she was a congresswoman. Sorry about that. I don't remember the exact designation of her title. But anyway, if you go onto my Substack, you'll see an article that is generated from Juan and the show he did, which is basically saying to call or email the White House and have the information there, the number and the email address, so that you can say to free Tina Peters. And that would really help, at least according to him. Now, personally, I don't know if those kinds of, pleas, but they do see numbers. So if a lot of people do it, then I think it will help her or help her cause or help his cause, and so forth, or their cause. But that's one of the kind of major moving and shaking in sort of things going on right now. But but I do want to draw people's attention to my Telegram, where I have been actually ranting about this stuff, and then I turn it into an article. So some of all what I'm saying here is on there. And I also want to say that there's another it's a round table that Juan is part of with military guys. John Chambers is the host, and it was just done like a day ago, so it's posted there. I found it very interesting because these guys are actually, saying that the Trump team is infiltrated, that certain people need to get their acts together, and in particular pointing the finger at certain individuals in the Trump team surrounding Trump. And so there seems to be some kind of block or issue going on around Trump's ability to act. And they didn't put it in those words, but that's.
I got a question about that. I know you go deep on stuff and you're not afraid to go to what I'm about to ask you. Like, you've had to hear this about the clones, like the Trump clones. Like, do you have an opinion on that?
Oh, well, doubles, clones, whatever. Yeah, definitely of Trump. But that doesn't mean they're sitting in the White House. I mean, they might come out to do public things, but they could be kept in, some kind of in a lower floor, or in a hotel room or whatever the hell they do with these people. But that doesn't mean they're sitting in the Oval Office. I think there's a misconception about that. Okay, if I had a clone or a double, I'm an actor or I'm a famous person, which I kind of am, loosely speaking, I wouldn't have that person sitting where I sit making the decisions I'm going to make. I would simply roll them out when I had to go into public. That's how it's done. So I don't understand why people don't get this. Even Ben Fulford doesn't seem to realize that just because you see a double doesn't mean, that he's incapacitated or not on the, not with his sort of the codes and everything that he has as president. Okay. And I think there is something going wrong personally. I think that if you listen to it is kind of a fascinating roundtable. So I do encourage people that want to understand what's going on. These guys don't mince words with each other. They're kind of straight shooters for a change, which I appreciate. And Juan was there as well. He seems to be taking a different tack than he used to, or than he has been in the past, though. And I'm trying to encourage him, look, you want to change this game, you come forward or threaten to come forward as your real self, JFK Jr., and that will fucking change the game, you know what I'm saying? So it would be very nice if he would take the matter into his own hands and do something, because it would just draw instant attention to Tina Peters, to her dilemma, to the White Hats, to the fact that our justice system is so corrupt that they can't even do business with them, actually. And I think this is not even popular knowledge enough that people don't realize. They actually think when a decision is made by a court or a judge in a court that these people are legitimate, and they're not. I mean, they are totally screwed up. And their thinking is anti-Trump, anti-MAGA. So Trump is being blocked by the courts, okay, right now. And there was a recent post that I added to my article and to the post on my Telegram channel. And if you want to go find the Telegram channel, just go to projectcamelotportal.com, which is my main website. And the links are across the top for all the social channels. And so click on Telegram, and that'll take you to my Telegram as opposed to fakers. And I have lots of fakers on Telegram pretending to be me. I have no idea why that is, but it is. And so just be sure you have my Telegram channel, which they are ghosting me constantly. So, it makes no logical sense, but the numbers, I had 100,000 or over 100,000, and now it's down to 80,000 or 84,000 or whatever the hell it was last time. I didn't look recently.
Yeah.
So there's something wrong. People don't just, unsubscribe in droves. I mean, I know there's some people that don't like when I talk about Christ and my point of view on Christ and God and all that nonsense, that religious nonsense that goes on. But I quote Christ, and do believe that he was a very strong avatar for the planet and so on and so forth. So getting back to Tina Peters, so Jack Smith
I got a question to say about that, because you know me, I'm not very political. I kind of get more into like exopolitics and stuff. I had to look up what she did and stuff. Like, I guess they convicted her for voter fraud. But like, here's the thing, like, what makes me laugh about this, and I'm sure you too, is like in 2020, like we know what like the left did and like how bad they manipulated. I mean, they were bringing in illegal immigrants to vote and like everything else. They did everything they could under the sun to steal that election. And look, I'm more of an independent, but I voted for Trump, you know what I mean? But like, I just know what the facts are, and they really, fucked over everybody with that election. You know what I mean? Like, well, to my knowledge, I don't know, I mean, like, so like, why go so hard on Tina Peters? I guess that's just the deep state or what? Like,
yeah,
am I
it's
way off there?
deep state, no doubt about it. But what I was going to say is that Jack Smith came forward with what, the White Hats know this whole case backwards and forwards. This has actually been going on for years now. I think it's more than a year. So what happens is she wasn't doing any fraud. She was trying to find out if there was fraud in a voting machine, which was her job, actually. So it's really convoluted, but the bottom line is that they threw her in prison. She's, I guess she's over 70. I don't know her real age. And she has cancer. So I don't know if she's dying of it, but she certainly has it. So this is very awkward, to do to a woman like her. I'm just saying, whose son is actually a hero of the United States military. He's one of those kind of hero guys. And so that makes her a certain kind of mother, which I don't know the language that they use for it. But anyway, so this is a upstanding citizen, okay, who got caught into a steal and tried to do something for the White Hats in terms of tracking the steal. And that's really what she was doing. She wasn't trying to change the votes or doing anything like that. I think she was making a copy of the results, but I don't know that exactly. Nobody's explained it like really specifically, okay? But the bottom line here is that when Epstein was brought up on charges in Florida, he was given house arrest, and on top of it, he had some kind of ankle thing where he could drive around and go where he wanted or something, which is insane to do with a pedophile. He was convicted,
Not just that, but like a vampiric pedophile, like you said. He was a complete psychopath.
Which I do believe, actually. As a psychic intuitive, I can tell you that's my take on him for sure. And so the thing is that then I wrote this whole article to explain. Okay, let me finish the Jack Smith. So Jack Smith said, I don't know what his actual title is, but has something to do with judicial, like his counselor, whatever he is. Anyway, he said publicly that if this is a federal case and not exclusive to the state of Colorado, and there's many indications that it was prosecuted or the case was brought forward by the federal government, and that was under Biden, the Biden show, who wasn't even a real person. he was dead, being played by doubles and clones, probably. Jim Kerry, for one, who's not a double or clone, but this is what was going on. So according to 107, 5 people played Biden at one point. So this is so insane. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, how insane our government is right now. The whole thing, in many ways, is a fucking joke. It's only because of the White Hats that any of it makes sense and that I would even pay attention. At this point, I would have checked out a long time ago, because I just can't be bothered with a bunch of fakers and liars and cheats, and easily half of Congress is probably guilty of some form of pedophilia. So that's what we're looking at. We're not looking at honorable people that have pressed charges against Tina. We're looking at gangsters, and she is not a gangster. And so this is where I do not understand how anybody would stand aside and let this happen to her. Even 107, he could make waves. He could come forward as himself, JFK Jr. He could stand up for Tina in that way. He's not hiding anything. The deep state knows what I know, okay? And I've met him in person. I know who he is. They know who he is, okay? They know where his family is. He's not protecting his family by acting like this. He's probably being kept under wraps by Trump because the competition might be too intense, but I think he's totally aligned with Trump, so that's not an issue. But here is a place where he could come forward, and it's not the only place. We are getting to a place with our government, with the gangsters that have been infiltrating us, with the takeover. We were actually invaded and taken over in 2020, really, actually, literally, when they supposedly fake swore in Biden. At that point, the steal of the election was basically certified, even though it wasn't certifiable. And that gets into a whole, another thing. Roberts, I think it is, who's head of the intelligence agents, even said the CCP stole the election. He said they had to stop, and their mandate was to stop for 10 days at that point and to review the information that there was coming into the intelligence agency about the vote, okay? But they didn't do that. They actually were, the intelligence agencies, except for Roberts, were derelict in their duty. So those are also traitors. I mean, in fact, we have traitors right, left, and center in our Congress who didn't legally certify the election, who didn't come forward. Think about this. They knew damn well that Biden was being played by this an actor and people that really couldn't find the stage and were falling down every second and all that kind of crazy shit. I mean, you couldn't even write a movie script that would be this insane. They would tell you, oh no, you can't do that. It's just a little too over the top. That's what they would tell you in Hollywood. So look at the situation we're in. So here's this wonderful woman who's trying to do her patriotic duty by tracking the results of the stolen vote, by the way. And they've kept her in prison now for over a year. What she should have been released was the minute that Trump got into office, legally, even though he never, whatever you call it, he never gave up the office. He was re-sworn in as the commander-in-chief in March 11th of 2021. Biden was given a funeral, not a swearing in. So Trump technically was still the president and has been the president all the 4 years when the Biden show was going on, being run behind the scenes by the CCP, by MI6, from what I understand, the British, with the help of places like Venezuela and Canada. And I mean, how insane this whole thing really is. I don't know why they don't just, you see how I'm talking? I am just laying it out very simply. I'm not telling you some fucking Bible story, okay? So that you can, what Juan does that so that he doesn't paint outside the lines. He's desperately afraid he's going to say the wrong thing. So he falls back on this programming he had as a young man somewhere after, he actually, I guess it happened when they fake shot down his plane, which he was not even probably on, along with his wife and her sister. They survived. Okay, there's all kinds of evidence of this. I have all this evidence on my pages. I have photographs. I have all kinds of stuff. He's wearing a bodysuit. He wears 2 pairs of pants. He's, it's insane. He's wearing a mask that covers him totally. He's got these fat hands that I don't know if he shoots it up with some kind of, what the silicone thing or what he does. But when you see there's a couple shots of his real hands. They're skinny like he is really under this suit. I mean, there's so much evidence that people just ignore. I have multiple, not only from him, but from colleagues who have no guts to come forward because they think they're protecting his family because he doesn't want it out there. It's bullshit. The dark side is all in the know on all of this. I'm not like some genius, okay? All I did was meet him in person, put 2 and 2 together, spend some time talking to him on the phone in person. I mean, he has a sidekick. There's a great clip in my analysis. I made I think it's an expert, what you call analysis of the Charlie Kirk false flag. Charlie Kirk is alive, okay? He's gone down the road of Juan. He's in witness protection. He's probably wearing disguises just like Juan does. Juan probably showed him the ropes, for fuck's sake. I mean, this is America today, okay? What I'm talking about here is this is so insane. People used to know, and there's many novels been written about, England under the kings and queens and how crazy they were and what nonsense and complete, I don't know what you want to say. What a crazy world it was back in those days. And now look at it. It's even worse, and people fall for this stuff all the time, and that is just insane. But one group of people is not falling for it. I can guarantee you that. And they have to be smart enough to rule the world, and that's the Illuminati. That's the people who are basically on the dark side, who have been really, keeping humanity down through the centuries. So wake up, people. I mean, there needs to be more people like me and my colleagues. Okay, my colleagues are fucking weaklings because they don't talk like I do. Okay, they don't call them out and say, stop it. We need to stop this fucking parade. At least Benjamin Fulford, admits that the whole thing is a farce, Unfortunately, he works for the triad. He works for, both the Chinese and the Japanese. I interviewed him in person in Japan, for God's sake. I was one of the first. He even said he was threatened by the triad. He had no other choice. So that's a situation, okay? Go ahead and ask me a question, but
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, it seems like we're being terraformed by some off-road faction. I wanted to ask you, like, how do you feel this is, because those of us that are in the know, and I'm not saying anything nobody doesn't know, but we all know that like our water's poisoned, our food's poisoned, the air's chemtrailed. It's like I'm going back to what you said about like, this is America today. This is the reality we live in, that like our world's become a complete disaster. It's like a big terraformed fucking reptilian takeover. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's what it is or if it's archons or, I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, it seems like it's insane though, I mean, like.
Yeah, it is. Well, okay. So excuse me if I repeat myself if on another show I was with you on, but the reason they want to have war with Venezuela is not because of drugs, okay? It's because Venezuela has been invaded and taken over by the gray ETs, okay? And probably reptilians behind that. And Cuba, there's a huge gray ET base under Cuba. China is putting missiles into Cuba blatantly right in front of our faces, and they go underground. And so China is in on setting us up. In essence, we are being invaded constantly. So we were invaded in 2020. And then at that time, Juan was actually talking about being invaded, and he told us about Trump being re-sworn in, having the codes, etc. However, he basically said they had to go by the Law of War manual, which is the same as the European version of the whatever those rules are called. And basically it says you have to wait 1 year after being invaded before you can act. I mean, what kind of bullshit is that? So who got into the Law of War manual? They rewrote it right around the time Trump took office the first time in 2016. And the bottom line is that that's an Illuminati. That's another infiltration, evidence of infiltration, because no country in its right mind would sit around for a year on its asses while they were being invaded by another. In this case, we were invaded by a group, a consortium of countries. I mean, and the military, okay, supposedly they didn't really stand down. Behind the scenes, they were taking actions. We don't know what those actions are, of course, but I give them a benefit of the doubt. They're not that stupid. But this is what Juan was out there saying. Oh, we're supposed to wait for, legally for a year. Don't be ridiculous. Okay, that's complete bullshit. It was bullshit then, it's bullshit now, but that is what they ostensibly did. But do you know what happens at the end of the year? You can shoot a traitor on sight. That's in the Law of War manual. It's written there. I read it. Okay. That means that any military person can pick up their gun and shoot some of these fuckers right the hell now. That is in the Law of War manual. So I don't know, I'm not like some legal scholar or something, but I can read a fucking contract. I can read English, and I understand that these people are still standing down to this day. They're trying to play. Look, they're basically playing 5D chess with their hands behind their backs, one hand behind their back. With the other hand, they're sort of doing something we don't even know, which they never tell us about, except the Gene D code insists they're going down into underground bases and rescuing, children that are kept in the reptilian nests. Do you understand what I'm talking about here? And,
yeah, I have Gene on my show. Yeah, I was going to ask you about
that. What our white hats are supposedly doing, okay? And yet they can't even rescue Tina. She's above ground, easy to get to. The president can get an executive order and pardon her in a half a minute, can prove that it is in a court of law. This is a United States federal case, so he's not violating states' rights. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there should be a clause somewhere in the Constitution that says if the state is acting against the federal government, that the government has the right to invade the state. I mean, you can't emasculate your federal government in that way by the states. Otherwise, what you really are is like a partitioned country made up of all multi-countries that have nothing to do with each other and try to rule themselves by themselves. I mean, this states' rights thing is really questionable, okay? And it's all about, oh, let's do it locally. Like crazy people can't be found locally. Seriously. I mean, you understand the decision-making is not very intelligent. Maybe it's my Pleiadian ancestry that just tells me that these people are fucking out of their minds, all right? And that goes for voting on a woman's body, a woman's right for an abortion, etc. You don't limit that to states. Women don't change their bodies state by state, so why would you change the laws state by state? This is insane, okay? I'm sorry, I'm on a roll here, but I'm just saying, enough already, okay? Trump should grow a pair. Usually he's very, very masculine and very strong and very, he makes decisions on a dime. However, I don't know what the hell has happened, okay? I don't know who's blackmailing who. We don't know what's going on. I can tell you it's the judicial system. They've locked them down And that was predictable. Okay, totally predictable. And that is the CCP still trying to run our country? Is MI6 trying to run our country? You know, we got rid of the British. He stepped
What
in.
about Israel?
We're not supposed to be under their fucking law, such as it is. You know, I mean, this is just, if you look at it logically, everything that I'm talking about, you will see that I am absolutely correct. And if you read my articles, you'll see more about this and more details and links to everything, you name it. All I'm saying is that I've been talking like this for the last, well, 8 years, I guess, but it just doesn't, I mean, I don't mean to sound like I'm hopeless, but it sounds like these people, you know, you want to do something. So one goes on this Mary Crowley's show, and the two of them sit together and go, oh, we got to get God to do something. And, you know, oh, please, God, let God win. Let God handle it. Oh, fuck you. You know, go fucking get her. Have an executive order. Take a little, you know, executive choice yourself and just do it. I mean, God doesn't have to intervene. You know, you're not helpless, are you? The White Hats have it, you know, have a pair or not. What's going on? I don't understand.
Yeah. I was just putting up some comments here. Yeah. Yeah. This, I was going to ask you, how does Israel tie into this with everything?
Oh my God. Well, Israel is run by the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki never left Earth. They took us over, I don't know, back, I don't know if it's 2,000 years, no, 20,000. I'm terrible with numbers, so don't ask me the numbers, but it's documented. It's documented on the temples in Iraq, Iran, and Egypt. They're these humanoid, very large. They're actually 9 feet tall, I believe is their standard. They're not giants. They're not 24 feet tall, so don't get them mixed up. But the Anunnaki are now in human bodies, sized bodies. They're walking the halls of the Pentagon. That's according to Robert Odin, who I interviewed dozens of times. He said I made him a rock star. He was an impeccable officer. You know, he blew his security oath and told the truth to humanity at great risk to himself and his family. I believe they killed his daughter. They said she committed suicide. They probably murdered her. You know, there is a price for telling the real truth and nothing but the truth. He and I got along really famously. And that was back in 2009, I think it was, something like that. I mean, who would imagine I would still be out here trying to tell people what was said back in 2009 that was the absolute truth then and still is. And I was talking about how whistleblowers are being mistreated and how they're being treated by a double standard. The ones that kiss the ass of the state, no offense, certain people like Jay, I'm not going to say his whole name, are being rewarded. They can say anything they want. Pods this, reptilians that, this thing, that thing. And this guy called Borland, Dylan Borland, all he did was see a UFO over the base, fly over the base. And they took him down. They ruined his life. They put him on, I mean, they actually shuttled him off to BAE over in England because they didn't want him to work for them anymore. I mean, it was complete bullshit what happened to him. And, you know, we're just talking about George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell did a set of 3 interviews with him. The third one was more about him than with him, all about his case. Go watch them. The bottom line is also Grush. He's practically, they tried to basically murder him. They certainly tried to discredit him. And all he did was come forward and say, I've got a bunch. He was like me. He has a bunch of whistleblowers, and he brought forward those guys and their testimony. He vetted them, and he brought them to the UAP hearing, and his life became miserable after that. I don't even know his state of mind at this time, you know. All I'm saying here is that I know it's insane, but this is what we're living with. And this is why people are not facing the truth about what their government is doing. And nobody is standing up to the white hats except me. Okay. Most people just, I don't know, kiss ass. I guess that's what they do for a living. I don't get it. But I am not like that. Okay. I love the white hats. I love that they're trying to defend our country. I love that they actually are doing something. But what are they really doing? We don't know, because they do everything in secret. And Juan wearing this disguise, which is insane. Stop hiding, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I mean, well, he probably, I mean, like, think about how many people, if it really is JFK Jr., which I have no reason to not believe you, you know, think about how many people in his family were murdered, you know? I mean, he probably feels like he's going to get murdered, right?
Yep.
I mean, that has to be it, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, fuck, like, do you think, if something happened to Trump, he would come out of hiding or something?
God, one hopes. I mean, the bottom line here is that something is happening to Trump. He is not behaving the way he's supposed to be behaving, based on his persona. Okay. It doesn't make sense that they would let Tina languish in jail. She's like a perfect example of the hypocrisy going on here. Okay. And between giving Epstein house arrest and putting her in prison, and the difference between a pedophile, murderer, child murderer, etc. Yes, actually Epstein did a whole lot more for the deep state, federal government back at the day. He worked for them, and he's not dead as far as I'm concerned. He's not dead. I'm sure they, did a false flag with him, just like they did Charlie Kirk. The reason they had to do false flag with Charlie Kirk is that he was turning against Israel verbally, in person, in speeches. He was getting a grip of what's really going on. He was kind of probably maybe even going down the rabbit hole. I mean, too bad he didn't talk to me. I'll fucking wake him up. But the thing is, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about heroes who are being cobbled, who are being held down from being the true heroes that they should be and need to be. There's no reason at this time for people not to dig deeper, to watch my videos. I've got, I don't know, we tried to count them. There's something like maybe 3,000, but maybe there's doubles in there, whatever. What I'm saying, I've been doing this for 20 years now, okay? 20 years. I can't even believe it, seriously. But that's what's happening, okay? I have gone down the rabbit hole, all right? My psychic intuition is saved my ass so many times and turned out to be right, okay? You can say 20 million things to me and I will listen. I will take them on board under advisement, but the only person I actually follow is me. That's it. So, the decisions I've made, the people I've interviewed, the conversations I've had, the things I've talked about, this is all the real me, okay? I am not fucking around, and I'm not pretending to be anything else other than what I am. And I just think, what's there to lose? In the end of the day, if you want to get, spiritual and philosophical, you've got to stand up and you're going to be counted one way or the other. You're going to be on the dark side when it's all over and done, or you're going to be on the light. And, whatever happens to you from there on out is your, lookout. The bottom line with the white hats is, they actually have, this is in my article, one of my articles, is basically they chose to use the art of war, Sun Tzu, because they say war is deception. Actually, no, humans fight wars. humans die in war, and there's nothing deceptive about a dead body. And World War I was absolutely a massacre. World War II was a number of different kinds of massacres. That's not deception, okay? That's actually in your face, people dying, okay? Yes, you can go on with your secret stuff behind the scenes. No one wants to know what you're going to do before you do it. But after you've done it, why don't you talk about it? You know what I mean? Like, what? Yeah. Why not? Take credit, you know, you did it. So, you know, you must have felt you had the right to do it. So talk about it. I mean, see, I don't like that heroes can't be straight up heroes. Okay. I don't like that they can't be honest with the people. They are deceiving you just like your enemies are deceiving you. That is not honorable. The white hats need to be honorable when they deal with the people, and stop trying to deceive us and think that, oh, you're going to reveal it, the truth later on after a bunch of, 20,000 more people have died. What is that, insane or what? Are you a good guy when you do that? I'm asking. Are you a good guy when you let people die, when you know full well you could warn them, but because you want to teach them a lesson, you let them die? Dead people don't learn much.
Like what happened in 2020.
Their families may learn some kind of lesson, but it's probably not the one you want them to learn, you know?
Yeah.
So,
it's really sad what's going on. What's going on here? You know, it's no, I was saying it's kind of like what happened in 2020. You know, it's like convincing people to do something that they shouldn't have done, and then
why work so hard to gain legal access to the presidency, and think of all the people that busted their ass to get Trump into office, and then not carry through, okay? And sit on your hands and talk about it. Well, I wonder why Trump isn't acting in this particular case. Please. I mean, really, I sympathize with the military men that are watching this spectacle and can't open their mouths like I can. But I'll say it for you. This shit needs to stop, okay? You need to be honest and stop listening to that stupid AI that you're following, because it is so insane. It is actually making huge mistakes in judgment, probably because it doesn't give a fuck about humanity. All right.
Yeah, so, that's a good point. Yeah, and they're building these. Did you notice another thing? I don't know if you, my friend Amanda Joan of Hart talks about this. They're built, and this is a fact. They're building these data centers everywhere too.
Yeah,
they had the Stargate program or whatever, which is crazy that they named it after the same thing. That there was a remote viewing program, but that was like the big AI set up. But now they're opening these data centers everywhere, which kind of freaks me out. My friend Amanda Joan of Hart, she's fighting against it in her town of Ohio. And I found out that they're opening data centers here in Pittsburgh, where I'm at. And it seems like they're doing it all over the place,
Yeah, and you know where the real data centers are? Underground. What they're doing is going into competition with the underground deep state secret space program. The reptilians have taken that over. Okay, we used to have sort of a split, according to William Tompkins, between the Pleiadians and the reptilians for years. I think that at this point, the rate we've gone is basically that the reptilians took it over. So we're fighting the reptilians. You've got to understand, a lot of the decisions they make are about fighting ETs on planet and off planet, okay? Because they're interfering with our lives, with our livelihood, with our ability to stay alive, to rule our own planet, et cetera, et cetera. So of course they don't tell you this. And even the White Hats don't even want people who are, like MAGA members to talk about the alien card, even though it's everywhere. It's in every decision that's made politically on the planet. The aliens are basically, involved. And according to Mark Richards, I just published 2 books based on all his interviews that I did with him, with 12 interviews, telling you a shitload of stuff about the secret space program, about what's really going on, you know, seeing through the lies in every way. And, you know, I don't know, I haven't really looked to see, you know, how well they're selling and all that thing. But the bottom line here is that I've been talking about this now for, as I say, 20 years. And my whistleblowers have been bringing the evidence to the table in terms of their real life experience. No, they don't say they're 20 years and back, where you can't check it, right? But these people have real credentials in the everyday sense of that word. Okay, so that's another thing going for them. But, you know, I'm not saying there's no such thing as 20 years and back, but I am saying there's no way to check it.
Well, can I comment on that? Like Corey Good fucked that up for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying like, you know, like when someone tries to copyright a Black Ops program, it's like you can't do that. You know what I mean? Like if people are being harmed by the government or by some outside source, by aliens, like how can you put claim to that? You know, like even if there is a 20-year and back, which I think there might be, or there might be some program, maybe they don't call it 20, but you know, who knows what they call it?
Probably
They
a dozen of them.
You know, they probably don't call the secret space program secret, right? I mean, like, but what I'm saying is like, you know, how could someone copyright? I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, I don't know if you're, I'm not going to, if you're talking about a certain person called initials CG, well,
yeah.
that guy is completely psychotic. But aside from that, you know, he worked for the CIA. You know, that's a fact, according to my source. And I believe it, actually. So what can you say? People are getting away with murder, literally, figuratively, and in every other way. I don't understand why people haven't sort of seen through this facade and seen the real truth. But, you know, a lot of people have Trump derangement syndrome because they don't like the way he acts or something, even though he signs bills to actually make your world a better place. They ignore that. I mean, these people are just insane. I'm not saying he does everything right by any means. As you can see, I'm free with criticism of the White Hats, of Trump, of whoever. But if you don't act according to what you say, and you don't actually stand for the people, protect the people, and try to tell the people the truth as often as fucking possible, then you're not going to be very high on my list. All right. Because we don't need any more liars. Enough already with the lies. And well, don't say you're going to come forward in 20 years from now, or 10 years from now, or tomorrow, or next week, or, you know, now. Okay. Tell the truth now. Okay. Yeah. Truth to power now. Okay. And stop fucking around. That's what I have to say to them.
Well, I got a question about, do you feel that Trump might be being influenced by A, Israel, B, the CCP, or off-worlders, or do you think he can't be
I'm sure he's being blackmailed 6 ways to Sunday. I mean, that's the name of the game, you know. But they can blackmail each other. I mean, this is, you know, they play dirty with each other. That's for sure. You know, but that's just the name of the game. If you want to call it war, that's one thing. You could, you know, it's a war of worlds, though. It's not just human to human. So that means the scales are not balanced, all right? You're dealing with very dark forces, but you still have to stand up and go mano a mano with those forces, because they will just run you rampant. And, you know, do you think that Trump is really building a whatever, it's the remodeling the ballroom or whatever the fuck, and putting a special telescope in the ceiling because nothing's going on? Do you think we might have an invasion happening sometime in the near future where he needs to be able to see what the fuck's going on in the skies above our heads? Do you know that the reptilians took complete control of the White House? Those buildings have underground bases, have underground nests that were run by reptilians. Yes, they supposedly cleaned them out and so on and so forth. You know, I can just say to you that you're not going to get rid of the dark. this is where people go wrong. Dark and light, yin and yang, it's all part of this scenario, whether you're in 3D, 4D, or going up to 5D and above. That's true. That's the information I have. Now, with that in mind, you're going to have to deal with all the levels, and you're going to have to get the most people on your side, because this is a world war, a multi-worlds war, okay, of all the worlds. You have Three Eye Atlas incoming. Sebastian Martin saw the reptilians being, in charge of the ship, and I saw it being under the control of the Anunnaki, who are reptilian humanoid hybrids. Okay, that's what they are. Both of us saw the same, or more or less the same thing, except I don't think the actual bodies of the in stasis, reptilians were on the ship. I believe they were being, photographed and projected so that a remote viewer such as Simon or myself could see what they want you to see. But it's a threat. It's an obvious threat to our planet and to humanity. So they tried to shoot it down using a CME. They couldn't hide that. It was obvious. It targeted it exactly, okay? What did it do? It swallowed that. It swallowed the CME like an animal, and basically sucked up all the energy, I'm sure, and did what all the craft do that go by the sun, and pulled in that energy. You see, that's what's happening. Then when it went behind the sun, it wasn't really behind the sun. It was sort of over to one side. We could still see it. We also have SOHO and other, things they don't tell you about. We have miniature satellite. We have a nano satellite grid all around the planet and off planet, and, probably deep space, etc. Why wouldn't you? Once you created ones around the planet, like Project Leonid, and people listening to me from the deep state and, the secret space program are going, oh God, she's now revealing more shit. Yes, okay. We have networks of satellites watching the planet and off our whole solar system and probably beyond. We've got Solar Warden. We know they're patrolling our solar system. They're on Three Eye Atlas like white on rice, and not just since July 1st. They lie to you, okay? They've probably been tracking it since at least March, when the word came out there was something out there, okay? And maybe even before that, okay? And it's very possible, but the Anunnaki living underground in Israel called it in. They called it in at this time because they want to distract from the war on the ground to a war coming from, interstellar space. Well, that is actually predicted. My whistleblowers predicted it. Pete Peterson talked about it. I said, are we in the time of Terminator? And he said, yes. He worked for over 40 years. He's an incredible inventor. He's died now, but he had to report to the Pentagon after his interview with me. And they told him to tell me that my section was such a shit section that they should, get rid of it. But it was too late. We already published it. And besides, I knew when he told me my section was shit, that it was probably the best section of all three. David Wilcock and Bill Ryan and me, we all three interviewed this man for well over, 6 hours, spent the whole weekend at his house. I mean, it was just incredible. What can I tell you? This is what's happening, okay? I have many more things to talk about going on in the future as well, about things that we may encounter on our way. We need to work together. We need to push aside these differences. We need not to be locked down by religion, okay, which is a way of enslaving humanity, okay?
I agree.
Get off your knees, stand up, take on the gifts that the source or creator gave you and do something with them, okay? They didn't fucking give you gifts. They didn't create these amazing human bodies, minds and souls for you to just sit around and take orders or eat bonbons. I mean, God, what is wrong with people? I mean, hello.
Yeah, it's a common misconception in our community that people think that like the ETs are going to come save us and that we don't need to do anything and that we're going through an ascension and everything's going to be okay. And like,
You know, these
it's like,
people, they're not equipped to ascend. They came here for a reason. And believe me that 99.9% of those people are not even close to being ascension ready for several more lifetimes. I guarantee it.
that's a good point. That's a really good point. But I wanted to get a little bit more into what's going on off world tied into the SSP and like the factions. Like, I'm like, who do you think is influencing like the geopolitics here on Earth? Like, would you say it's like Solar Warden, or is it like another off-world corporation, like Mars Defense Force or something like that? Like, what do you
There
think is
are
going on?
many groupings of ETs, okay? They hold meetings in places like Exeter in England, and the New World Order is there. The secret space program is there. The United Nations, a portion of it deals with these meetings. They're meeting with myriads of ETs, okay? That they use Antarctica as a good meeting place as well. And Peru, I've talked about this before. These are the places that I've been told by Captain Mark Richards and other whistleblowers, Dan Burish, going way back in the day. These meetings called Tau, whatever, these are real meetings they've been having with ETs. They're making decisions about your future here on Earth without ever consulting you. They could care less what you think. All right, that's the bottom line. So understand. And why did Juan O. Savin, JFK Jr., go down to Antarctica to meet with 100 other people selected from all around the globe? Both the good side and the bad side have to sit there and be lectured to by some off-world AI. All right, that's what happened down there. All right, I had a remote viewer who I believe is correct on that score. So did Juan come back and tell you what the fuck went on? No, because of course they're probably sworn to secrecy and they'll try to kill him if he tells the truth. Whatever. There's ways to get the truth out, however. And you don't necessarily have to say it yourself. You could give somebody the information and put them on a pedestal somewhere to, talk to the people. The bottom line is that people have a right to know. We need to know. You think they're going to change your financial system, okay? That is not up to humans. I hate to tell you, but I have multiple whistleblowers behind the scene, both on the Illuminati side and on the good side, telling me this, okay? Changing the financial system of humanity on Earth is an ET decision, a group of ETs probably. And so, like, deal with it, okay? Stop fucking around with all your bullshit and get a grip, okay? This is something that if they decide to do it, they're going to keep control of it, okay? I'm not a financial expert, but I can tell you I've been told all kinds of stuff about that. And by the way, we have no debt. The United States has no debt. I mean, I have this on excellent authority from somebody who's so high up in the fucking pecking order, I mean. It's just insane because people don't know these things. I've said them in, over the 20 years, but of course there's so much to say and so little time. The bottom line is that they are going to decide what you will get, even if you're going to get med beds or not. Okay. So I'm sorry, but what goes on here on Earth is very, very controlled by off-planet races, some of whom are complete enemies with each other, and some are in our camp. They are trying to protect us. They are trying to keep us, viable and help us when we're being invaded, and warn us in myriads of ways, like making people like me and Sebastian and other people who are enough awake and have the frequency to be able to listen and accept it. This is what's going on. Don't be deceived by people who think they're in charge. They're not, okay? This sort of pecking order of who's in charge goes way up the ladder, and it's beyond human.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Jason in the chat wanted to add, are you still in touch with Captain Mark Richards, or
Yes.
Is he still getting, like, would you say, like, good intel about what's going on with the White Hats and like ET
Well,
forces
he's a psychic, a remote viewer, and he was well trained by the military back in the day. So he still has those skills. So he uses those to give some of his testimony. He is, I believe he's aligned with the White Hats enough to where he follows their orders in the sense of not revealing what they don't want revealed. For example, there's a lockdown on information on 3i Atlas, and he wouldn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll change. I can say that John Walson, who's a wonderful astronomer, I guess you call him, with his own telescopes, gigantic telescopes that I've seen, he can see 3i Atlas, and he's given, and I posted them on my website. Just go to the front page, you'll see it. Some great photographs of what 3i Atlas actually looks like. Nothing like this little, light with a tail that people are trying to show you. It's incredible, okay, what's happening. All I do is work every day to get the truth out. And I work and research everything, top to bottom. And just like you're interviewing me, I interview other people, sometimes on the record and sometimes not.
Yeah. But, one more thing on the Mark Richards thing. Is there any hope for him to get out of jail, or do you think they framed him to a point where they just do not want him out?
A lot like the Tina Peters situation, okay? He is a whistleblower. He's been a whistleblower against the Luciferian Alliance for all these years. He's been in jail for, I think it's around 38 of his years. Just read my books and learn more about him. I mean, they're really easy to read. I had actually 2 editors. Apparently there are still typos. So I'm getting another review of the books, and I'll put them out without any mistakes, I hope. But I don't know why it was so hard to release these books. It took me a year just to help try to get them in shape. And then I hired 2 editors, but apparently that wasn't, maybe there was interference, maybe they put up the wrong copy. I don't know what happened, but I apologize for any typos and such. You have to understand how difficult it is to actually get something done in this sector when you really have the real stuff, and how much they want to mess with you, and I am heavily protected, mainly from off planet, but definitely some on planet, military and behind the scenes people, no doubt about it. I probably wouldn't even be alive today if that wasn't the case.
Wow.
Mark Richards, yes, they have this system now. They entered the real, the modern world, and he has an iPad kind of thing, and it has an intranet where they can communicate, or whatever you want to call it, but it's heavily monitored and very controlled. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's not that easy to always get in touch with him. He has to be very guarded over that. That's why I always had to go in person to do all my interviews. I was given a little pencil, a bunch of little torn pieces of paper, and that was what I did for the interview. I couldn't bring in a recording device because people like Oprah had tried to interview him years ago and were told no. So there was no point in me trying to get permission to tell his story. So I went in not as a journalist, but as a friend. And his wife of the time, they're divorced now, and it's very, contested, whatever you call those divorce type things. Yeah. And, but the bottom line is that during the time when she was loyal to him, Joanne Richards, was very helpful to facilitate, me getting into the prison, Solano State Prison, Northern California. And I would sit with him face to face, inches between us, and basically pepper him with questions nonstop for 2 or 3 hours every single time, and take notes. And I call it, part of my book title has the words total recall, because I had to remember. I wasn't able to write down everything. I'm not that fast of a writer, and with a tiny pencil, it doesn't really work great. But I am, very dedicated to listening and learning in this particular field that I'm in. So that's why my mind is kind of, when I come across stuff to do with the secret space program, which seems to be my mission, my mind is like a steel trap. I don't forget and I don't ignore. I listen. That's a huge talent you have to do the job I do. If you don't listen and all you want to do is talk, well, then, it shows up on your, broadcasts or whatever. A lot of people miss small things, and then they don't get the real. Look at Candace. Okay, I love Candace. She's fabulous. A woman after my own heart. However, she doesn't realize, or appears not to realize, that Charlie Kirk was a false flag. Smart woman like her should know that. I have a psychic intuition that she's working with the White Hats, and she's pretending not to know it was a false flag. That's my theory. I wrote about that in my article. I had somebody write to me recently saying they saw the same thing. They think they're a talented remote viewer or whatever the hell, but the thing is that she's telling, Tucker and her are basically, a team. But the bottom line is that I wish, again, the White Hats didn't try to bring her on board to get her to lie for them and say that he was dead. They don't need to do that. Think about this. If I know it's a false flag, and colleagues like me, the smart ones, know it's a false flag, because we watch these things day in and day out for, in my case, 20 years. And we basically know how to track a false flag. We know how to look at the evidence and come to a conclusion. On top of it, being a remote viewer and successful, psychic intuitive, I can tell you, I know for a fact that's a false flag. He is not dead. He is with his family, and the chief of police of Colorado, who I interviewed like 3 times on my show, I think. You can go to my website, just put in chief, and you will get those interviews. And you will see that he has some psychic abilities himself, that he has actually come out. I just put it on an article. You would have read it, where he's basically saying the same thing I am. Charlie Kirk is not dead. Hello. So stop fucking around and not, and just tell the truth. Okay, just tell the truth, because the dark side knows what we know. Okay, it's like laughable. Do you really think these Illuminati psychos don't know what's going on? Do you seriously think that I know more than they know? These dark magicians with all their fucking games and bullshit. Seriously. Go read Leo Zagami. I'm one of the first people that really popularized him, interviewed him in person. He was a member of the P2 Lodge, probably still is. He is trying to be a good man now. He's changed his ways, thank God. He was possessed at a certain point.
Wow.
Seriously, I'm not just kidding about that, okay? This is real, okay? What I'm talking about is real, okay? And we are in the middle of it. None of you gets out of here alive, okay? Or if you want to put it another way, you all do. Because death is an illusion. So once you know that in your deepest heart of hearts, then you realize you have nothing to lose, and neither does any person out there. Ultimately, you have to be the hero of your own life. And ultimately, your soul will know the difference. Okay. So when you leave here, your physical body is not the end all and be all of you. You will have to take that history, that, karmic burden, whatever you want to call it, with you wherever you go. So if you're a fucking liar and you hurt people and you do all these other crazy shit things, or if you're just, weaselly and you occasionally tell a small untruth, whatever, it's still on your back. Okay. It accompanies you. You're the one, not God. You are the one who's going to clean up your act. Don't get started on the Oceana Dean Voyager books, where she basically says the Guardian races, because she's just taking notes and telling you what they say, that Jesus was never crucified. That's an Illuminati fucking mind control bullshit. Okay. Of course he rose after that, because you don't die. You don't die, neither did he. Get it?
Yeah. I was going to say, it seems like we're in a big, like, spiritual warfare too. I just wanted to remark that, like, I've noticed a lot of people, it seems like, they don't realize that some people have been hijacked. Like, people are being possessed, literally possessed. And, like, I've seen people change, and, like, other people I know have seen people change recently. And it's like, people can't perceive that they're being hijacked by entities. And it's like, I feel like this is a battleground for spiritual warfare. Would you agree with that to some sense, or no?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm basically saying that. Okay. So, but yes, of course, it's a spiritual war. Okay. It's a war of worlds. We exist on multiple dimensions simultaneously. Okay. We have multiple incarnations, even simultaneously. Time is not linear. Therefore, when we think of it, we see this happens, then that happens in a linear fashion. That's not how it works. That's why time travel is real. We are time travelers. Okay. We basically live in all these different dimensions simultaneously. We're amazing beings. Okay. Thanks in part to the creator. Okay. And the other thanks you can do is thank yourself if you are anything of worth. Okay. But this is a spiritual war you're in. You can go around deceived. You can go around, tugging on the skirts of what you think is your mother or father in heaven, going to protect you and do all this kind of shit, and stay a baby and have to keep coming back regardless of the kind of body you get. Or you can actually stand up, be a full-grown spiritual being, taking control of your own life. Okay. Not making decisions for other people, by the way. Hello. I mean, this is, I guess I'm being very emphatic in this interview, but I guess I'm fed up, because when I listen to these generals sit around saying to each other what's wrong, and no one gets up to fix it, and Juan is sitting there in a disguise that could change the fucking world in a heartbeat if he just came forward. Okay. It pisses me off, because the potential is great for change, for humanity to step forward and be who they really are. You name it.
Wow, this was an amazing interview. We went for about an hour and 13 minutes. I want to ask you, is there anything else you want to cover before we finish up tonight? I mean, this was amazing, though.
I don't know. I think I've talked a lot. I'm not sure what I might be not, hitting on.
Well, let me ask you this.
I've written so many articles over there. Go to my website. I've always written articles. So I've actually now thousands of articles. I think I should put them in some books, that might help finance my work. Bottom line is that, this is your life. You have to actually embrace it, regardless of what your status is.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah. And how can people, or the new Mark Richards books, I just wanted to kind of plug those for you. Like, so everybody go subscribe to Kerry's Substack. She's actually, you're like, I saw you're like number in the top 100 in geopolitics, which is great. Congratulations, that's awesome. Like,
Oh,
I mean,
that's
I know you have a huge following anyway, so I mean, like, I know that's not probably a, like, but I still think it's pretty cool.
okay. ProjectCamelotPortal.com is my main website. Very close to the top, I have my 2 Mark Richards books. They're quite big to draw people's attention to them because I just published them like a month ago or so.
That's awesome.
Support
Yeah.
my work, buy my books. There's paperback as well as Kindle. And, you can write to me, Kerry at Project Camelot, projectcamelot.tv. That's my main email. My name is spelled, well, it's on the screen. And so, yeah, so I hope that helps. I hope it cuts through the nonsense, and also demand more. Demand more from these people who you're listening to every day and watching their videos, and know when somebody is putting themselves on the line with the real truth versus, playing games with your head and doing what the CIA tells them to do, and so on and so forth. I mean, start cutting through the bullshit, see the truth for what it is. It's going to resonate with your heart and your mind, not just one or the other.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, for me, this is like a big honor. I tell you this every time, but I was watching your videos back in 2013. Like I know a lot of guys in the chat, a lot of people, men and women in the chat, are like classic Camelot fans. We saw all the episodes with, cool. I always tell you Stardust Ranch with the alien, and like Captain Mark Richards, and I mean, like Robert O'Dean, and like it was just like it was amazing because, again, I was an Art Bell fan, and like Art Bell wasn't covering anything like that. You know what I mean? He wasn't talking about the secret space program. Like you were one of the first people to come out with that. So it's it's really an honor to be able to talk to you. It's an accomplishment for me in my and yeah, I really evaluate. I believe you're really speaking the truth. So like yeah.
Yeah. Well, we need to change this world, and we need to take it in hand, and we need to actually, we have to demand more from our so-called leaders than what they are dishing out. Okay. It's not good enough.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks, Kerry. Thank you so much. And everybody follow Kerry. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. And I'll be live a little bit later tonight, guys. But for now, have a good night.